Hi, and welcome to Ask the Manager. We've had a little delay in getting this show going because we've actually lost our biggest fan on this show. My mother passed about a month ago. So we're going to have to just see what we can do without having her critique going forward. But I'm sure her spirit's with us. So given that I'm talking about my mother, my first question is certainly about the cemetery. You've had cemetery meetings, or the Pax has had cemetery meetings, and it's to discuss the property across from Mountain View, which was actually purposely purchased years ago to have an extension of the cemetery across the street. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, Donna, we're so sorry for your family's loss and that we've lost our biggest fan, but we'll continue to carry on is what you'd want us to do, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So we have been moving into more detailed discussions about the master planning activities for the southern portion, I guess, of Prospect Park, or the parcel that includes Prospect Park, for expansion of the cemetery. We put funds in place to do that several years ago at town meeting. We are literally running out of space in Mountain View, and we have been working with a consultant to do some, what I think is really good planning for a cemetery within that space. I think it's very complementary to that space. It's not like we intend to just go in and clear cut every tree. We want to make it a nice balance between a park and a cemetery. So it could really be used for, passive walking recreation throughout the whole park, but also feel very calming and comforting for a final resting place and for individuals to visit their loved one's grave. So I'm actually pretty proud of the design that Angela Snell has led and has been working with the commission on.
There were residents that made comments at that meeting, and one comment was made by Dr. Harding, which I thought was long in coming because it's been discussed for many years or over many years, and that is sidewalks on Prospect Street. And would that link into the project?
Yeah, I mean, sidewalks in general is something that we want to focus on with capital improvements in the coming years. And we definitely want to provide good connectivity and safe connectivity into Prospect Park. So we know there's a lot of foot traffic on Prospect Street in that area. So this would give us an opportunity to use I guess it'd be like the northwestern or southeastern actually aspect of that parcel to put sidewalks in. Yes. Yeah.
There weren't that many comments or concerns brought forward, were there?
No, we received a handful of comments, at the meeting and prior to meeting combined. It's very interesting, and speaking with folks like you, Donna, have been really engaged with the community over a number of years, well, a number of decades, actually. Everyone, really remembers why that land was purchased. And then there's folks that are, to put it bluntly, I guess, offended that we would try to be taking park land away from the town and putting in a cemetery. So it's that continual balance. I realize there's been quite some time since the land was actually acquired. I believe it was the Mason's property or something like that. And so we're still trying to balance that out. And we really balance it out on our day-to-day practical needs, right? Because we are only selling graves right now, after the time of death. We're not, prospectively selling graves any longer because we just don't have that amount of property left. The town's only cemetery infrastructure, to use a cold term for a cemetery, is Mountain View. And so we're being very limited until we have more space. And doing this master planning activity and moving in that direction will allow us to be much more open with our sales and I think be more servicing and welcoming to the community for their cemetery needs.
And I'm going to leave my comedy at home because every
Okay.
time you talk about something, I have something that I really shouldn't say on television. Anyways, so moving on, there was a meeting where Jeff Howland came in with other department heads to talk about DPW's progress and where we've been and where we're headed, which I found to be quite interesting. He gave us an update for water and sewer around the unidirectional flushing, which when it affects your neighborhood, it seems like it's a real pain in the neck to have it happening. But once it's done, you know, we should all be glad because it improves our water quality. And there's also been water main improvements in various parts of town, and one of the major ones was between Main and Walnut. And that went all the way out to from Main Circle to Holando Drive. So that's the length of Walnut Street.
Yeah, the full length of Walnut Street there for that main improvement. And this year we're going to be tackling Main Circle. And then if you recall, it also went the whole way up to Main Street and into the center, and that road's in pretty rough shape. So we're glad to be getting beyond the subterranean infrastructure improvements, and then we'll go back and be repaving the length after we get Main Circle in and everything, and repaving all those roadways. So yeah, we are committed to doing significant amount of water main work every year in order to keep up with the 75 to 100-year life cycle on the mains. That's what they last. They don't last forever, and unfortunately our infrastructure, or fortunately I guess, our infrastructure is getting that old in some areas because we've had a water department since the early 1900s. So yeah, so we're undertaking that work, and unidirectional flushing, we haven't made it the whole way through the entire community, but we've made it through the areas that have seen the most significant amount of discoloration because of the manganese over the most recent years. Certainly every aspect of the community has been impacted, but we've hit those high intensity areas. And this summer, actually, I spoke to the superintendent, Dan Rowley, just this afternoon, and since we've had an early spring, at least knock on wood so far, we plan to begin our unidirectional flushing activities within the next few days and get through the rest of the town, and then work on a much quicker cycle to get through the entire town at least once every 2 years. So
now, did I hear you correctly? Did you say the paving on Main Street down to Dean Park, that wouldn't be done until Main Circle is completed?
No. So the Main Street portion will be paved this summer. That's a Mass DOT project that will happen before Main Circle's done.
Yeah. So you say this summer, are you talking June this summer, August this summer?
I unfortunately do not have a start date because it's a Mass DOT project, but we know it is on their summer schedule for this year. So hopefully it's June and not August.
Hopefully it's on the early end, because that road is, I yes. always pity the people that live in that area because they have to use that road so much that it must be very frustrating. Yeah. But not that you don't know that. So testing the water. Now, there's testing done all the time. It's been done for years and it's always done. And we have to meet certain standards. But there's been pilot testing for hexavalent chromium. Why is it called pilot testing?
So the pilot part of it, or what we're actually studying, is how to remove it. What is an effective approach to removing the hexavalent chromium from the water? So we have a very, very low amount in our water, but it is present and we don't want it in there at all. So we're actually piloting two emerging technologies to see what the best approach is to remove it from the water. And that has actually been underway for at least 60 days now. And it's a 6-month test. And then from there, we would look to make a decision and work with DEP to put a permanent solution in place. There's one program called Ion Exchange, which utilizes salts to remove it from the water. And then there's a carbon-based filtration system, I think, which is the other solution that we're considering for that, and PFAS to remove it. So yeah, so we're moving to that next phase. After we've recognized that it's in the water, we need to remove it.
So have we ever found the source of that hexavalent chromium?
No, there's never been a definitive source found. The farthest we've gone is work through the DEP that is likely off of an old industrial site in Worcester. And DEP has been working on our behalf with the current property owner, who's definitely not the contaminator, but is responsible if that is where that plume is coming from. So, but it hasn't been pinpointed definitively yet.
But the source is not from within our town.
Not from within our town, no.
Okay, so now there's been a lot of sewer work on Route 20, pretty much from Lake Street to the Worcester line. Is that project done?
The first phase is done in the roadway, and then we also constructed the new pump station. So we just need to connect that all together. But we are proceeding with additional work that will continue beyond the Lake Street intersection up past the new Edgemere Drive-In, and kind of stub ourselves off up there for phase 2 of the project, which would continue down Route 20 in eastern fashion. So given the work that's going on for the Edgemere Drive-In redevelopment, since Route 20 is going to be widened and improved, we're going to continue our project and work in that area while the road is under construction. And this summer, we also will be moving forward with the intersection improvements with Lake Street and Route 20.
And the pump station's done over in that area?
Yes, yes.
So that's a big addition for Shrewsbury. And the Edgemere Drive-In property, which will be Market Basket project, is moving right along. But what's the timeline? Everybody wants to know when they can shop at Market Basket.
Well, the building permit hasn't even been pulled for Market Basket yet, so it's going to be a little while. I would anticipate in about 14 to 16 months from now, it should be open. We have received, they're working on the residential units in the initial phase. They've pulled the permits for all the residential units at this time. That actually brought in almost $500,000 in permit fees to the town. And they will be pulling their commercial permits for the Market Basket and related retail sites. They've told us within the next 60 days. So it's going to be a year plus development for that. So hopefully we can be celebrating a ribbon cutting in about a year from now.
So you're talking about revenue. Is it really true revenue, or is it an expense for the town and it turns out being a wash? Or can we really see dollar signs there?
So it's a little bit of dollar signs for us. Permits are based upon the $10 per 100,000 of value in the excuse me, 10. I'm going to mess it up. So it's a ratio based upon the value of the construction. So whenever it becomes like a larger project like this, there's certainly a lot of inspections that have to occur, and the fee is tied closely to our expenses. But on bigger projects like this, there is actually a little bit of a windfall to the town. So it certainly will help timing wise this year with our other general economy driven receipts down. Our local receipts are down. So these major projects will be a good shot in the arm. Unfortunately, it's not going to, be a lot of extra additional revenue from what we budgeted, but it'll hopefully help us meet our budget.
So now There's also for sewer and water, a 5-year capital improvement plan. Do all of your departments set forth with 5-year plans?
On the
Or should
capital
I say
improve,
dreams, excuse me?
yeah. So for capital improvements, yes. So our major consumers of capital projects like public buildings, highway, water, sewer, kind of the infrastructure type areas. They all do submit 5-year rolling plans each year, so they're considered and updated annually, but they do project out for the next 5 years. So yeah, we pretty much have a good handle on that. We're considering what public infrastructure projects that we have. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about the American Rescue Plan and stimulus funding in the future, but we're kind of looking at all those projects that we have right now, and it's over $100 million in total projects on that wish list. They're not all needed tomorrow, and they range in size from, we obviously have some aging buildings and aging roofs and things like that. So there's some major projects involved, but we have a lot of assets, so.
Is it fair to say that if you just look back from just the time that you've arrived in Shrewsbury, that you've seen a lot of major improvements that have taken place? That we've made good progress in spite of the pandemic, in spite of the recession?
I think so. Yeah, I think we should be really proud of the investments that we made and the community's commitment to investing in itself on projects. I'm still not here 4 years. It'll be 4 years this coming July, but
Wow.
since I've been here, we've completed the new water treatment plant, excuse me, where, Beal will be, it should be substantially complete this May. We'll break ground on the new police station within the next few months. So yeah, a lot of major capital improvements. And I think we've done a really good job on the less public facing projects as well, with the unidirectional flushing and the water main replacements and building a water rate that allows us to really preserve that infrastructure. And then the Barden Tramont pump station, the BT pump station there, located on the Barden Tramont property, town owned, but that's what we call it, is a major capital improvement with that sewer work in Route 20. So yeah, I think we've done a lot of good things.
So if we move over to public buildings, a lot of the focus with public buildings over the past year, and a lot of expenses have been related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Has that put a stall factor into public buildings?
I think yes and no. I mean, so we haven't taken on a lot of extra projects, but any things that were planned prior to the pandemic, we haven't halted any of them either. Our pandemic-related response has all been funded, fortunately, at this point through the CARES Act funding, which we received last May, or our earmark came through last May, and then we have the ability to spend it through next December. We're almost out, though. We've spent over 90% of that funding already. A lot of that goes into just the daily requirements that it takes to ensure on-site education for the public schools. I wouldn't say we certainly haven't accelerated any projects, but we've at least kept up with things. We'll actually do the work on the Parker Road School building, the roof work this as soon as the weather breaks. And so the major projects that we planned and did end up still funding this past spring have moved forward, or I guess it was August by the time we actually got the town meeting.
How old is the Parker Road building that it already needs a new roof?
It's a good question. We've had, I don't know the answer to that. We've had substantial roof leaks there. I didn't think it was too new, though, to be honest with you, Donna.
I just lose track of time, so
Okay.
it could be old and I just don't recall.
Okay.
But Parker Road, to me, it seems like I'm just surprised we need a new roof already, I guess. So I could be wrong. How long should the roof last?
Well, 20 to 30 years.
Well, it might be on the short end of 20.
Mhm.
So to me,
So
that's
it's
still
built
new.
after floral?
Yes,
Okay,
I think so.
okay.
I could be making up a story there too.
That's
But
everyone's, main point in time is when was floral built, right? That's the question they seem to ask.
exactly. When was that? That was, anyways. You got a green community grant, and most of it was related to energy efficiency in 5 schools, right?
That's right, yep.
And
So,
that was a good chunk of money. It was over $184,000.
correct.
So, I mean, we're getting, sometimes, we look at budget cuts from the state and so forth, and then all of a sudden grants trickle in different ways, and we still manage to accomplish things. And I think this is one of those types of grants where we're still benefiting to get these things accomplished.
Yeah, the Green Communities Program really, kind of everything we promised or told the community that would happen if it passed has come to fruition. We've received well over $300,000 in grants that we would have otherwise not been eligible for, just in the short 2 years period of time. So it's definitely a big asset to the community. And,
How do you
the
find
stretch
out?
energy code that's in place is, is something
How do
that's
you
needed.
find out about all the grants? How do you keep up with it?
So Keith Baldinger, manages that program for us and works directly with Kristen Last, the assistant town manager, on the application process. He just stays on top of it. There's no other way to put it than that.
That's good. Well,
Yeah.
good. Thank you to him. So staying with Keith, Parks and Rec, with all the COVID protocols, a lot of the sports were really canceled, so it brought down organized sports. But there's so many people still using the parks.
Yeah, and that's yeah. So tons of people using the parks. The weather's getting nice. We are moving into the winter cleanup, post-winter cleanup, and the reopening of the parks. Kevin Esposito leads those activities for us, and does a really good job with short staff. But we're eager to get our summer workers in and our seasonal workers in and get it open. The docks are going in, and once the water level gets high enough, so rowing season can begin. And it looks like, knock on wood, that those types of events will be happening more this spring than last spring. Still plenty of COVID protocols in place, but seems a little bit more promising, less uncertain.
You mentioned the docks. Just today, someone said to me, get bigger fish in the lake. Now, that would be a request to the state, correct?
That is correct, yes.
They want big fish.
Okay.
Okay, I did my part. Coolidge has had pickleball. What is pickleball at the
So
tennis courts?
I hope I don't offend anyone, but so pickleball, in my mind at least, is like racquetball played with wiffle ball, like rackets and hard plastic balls. So it's a sport that has a lot of interest from seniors, and a lot of communities are expanding pickleball and providing courts. Like us, we didn't get to build new courts, but we incorporated them into our existing tennis courts. And we're looking to make those changes permanent. It's a fun activity. I've never played personally, but I've watched folks play both indoor and outdoor, and they seem to really enjoy it. And it's been a little bit of a longer process for us to get them in, but I'm happy that we're moving in a permanent direction, and they'll be part of the community for the future.
Speaking of tennis courts, do we have enough?
It's a good question that I don't have a direct answer for you. I know there's various ways. You can either pay a little bit of money to be able to reserve them, or kind of come and take your chance and drive to the park and get it. First come, first served basis, as long as no one else has reserved it. I haven't heard of a lot of complaints, and that's not the best way to know if something's working or not. But
Now,
yes,
how
I haven't
about
received.
parking? It seems that Montessori school takes over the parking at the tennis courts. And I wonder if that's been an intrusion for people who are trying to use the courts.
I haven't heard that either. I mean, it's really good to see the increased interest in all the recreational activities, and at least this spring, we know we don't have to, or at least at this point, we're not going to have to shut the courts down. Um, the expansion of recreation programs and activities and amenities and human service programs is something that I think we have plenty of room to grow into, and it's something that I'm very interested in hearing from the community on and building a strategic plan. One of the capital investments that I will propose at town meeting provides $200,000 for improvements at Dean Park. So it's obviously been highly utilized and needs some TLC. So we hope to do that this summer.
And if we go over to highway, there's been paving projects that have gone out to bid, and 10 roads had been resurfaced over the past year. What's a good number for accomplishment?
Yeah, so I mean, each year we spend, with our Chapter 90 allocation, we spend about $1 million on roadway improvements, and there's no good. You can't really compare length. I can't say like 3 miles is good, because it's really dependent on the project. Sometimes if it's just a resurfacing and we're only milling down 2 inches and then overlaying 2 inches, then we can get a lot more length done. But if it's going to be, we have to go down to the core surface of the roadway and rebuild it from the base up, then it's a lot more costly and a lot less distance. So we spend about $1 million each year. It's not really adequate. We certainly could stand to spend, double that, if not more, to really keep up on a true life cycle timeline for all of our roads. But we do the best that we can with the limited resources that we have. And, our Chapter 90 allocation is a direct grant that we get from the state every year.
Now, I know I'm picking on the state one more time, but on Route 9 down by CVS, the crosswalks are totally falling apart. And those crosswalks are used quite a bit by pedestrians. But it's the brick or the fake brick or whatever they use. It just looks sloppy. And I was thinking with spring cleanup, we've got the street sweepers going, and the town roads will be looking good the way they're cleaned, and the requirement of the state that it has to be done twice a year. Why doesn't the state take care of Route 9 the way they expect us to take care of the town roads?
It's a really good question. Yeah, I'll have to look into the sidewalk or those crosswalks, because they were done since I've been here. They shouldn't be failing already, but I definitely will have DPW take a look at them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, they have so much dirt on the side of the roads or sand that weeds grow very high. And yet we street sweep ours twice a year. Now, maybe
Right.
the state does it twice a year and I don't realize it, but there's enough dirt that piles up where, they actually have their own weed gardens
Right.
going down Route 9. And it just presents poorly. So
Sure.
I would hope that we could find a way of getting the state to stay on top of that. I've been traveling across Lake Bridge quite a bit lately at night, and those lights are so beautiful. The way the masts light up, but also I just realized, that the lights under the bridge are coordinated with the lights on the mast. So as they turn, the lights underneath turn also. But it's so pretty.
It really,
really
is.
is. And I thought at first, when the selectmen said, "Oh no, let's keep it simple," and this was before you came into Shrewsbury, "let's keep it simple and not make the bridge too fancy." And I thought, why not make it fancy? But you know what? It's really nice. It was actually a good call on their part, because you can look across the lake as you cross the bridge, and there's nothing obstructing your view. So it's actually still very beautiful to look out, even though you're in, chaotic traffic as you're going across. You can look out and see you know, the serenity of the lake, and it really is beautiful. And had they put more snazzy things up across the bridge, it would have obstructed our view. So it was a good call on their part. And we have a different contractor doing forestry in town.
Yes.
Is that a bid issue?
Yeah, so we put out a 3-year bid, or we go out to bid every 3 years for that work. And this year we have a new contractor that's been doing a really good job, and it costs us more money. They're still the low bidder. It's kind of like the same thing with the trash. You know, the 3-year or 5-year cycle really catches up with you. So we're getting a lot of good work done, and trying to provide some additional funding because we're still kind of in the aftermath of the gypsy moths. We're taking down some of those trees that were compromised but not, fully de-leafed, and they're catching up with us.
And when we go into the business end of things, there's online utility permitting for contractors. Is that the beginning of all of our billing being able to be done online? Is that like the tip of the iceberg?
Yeah, so we've had building permits on there, plumbing permits, electrical permits have come on after, but yeah, now we're moving into the public works area for water and sewer permits through the web portal. We do want to have that as an option for most, if not all, facets of our business, to include, we now accept credit cards for tax payments. I'm not advising anyone on their own personal finances, how they do it, but a lot of people do take advantage of it. I know people earn points and things like that. So that's a new feature that we've recently added, so you can pay your property tax bills with a credit card. So we are trying to get into the online marketplace and catch up with the rest of the private sector when we do that.
And the DPW webpage has been updated. So that's a big improvement. And there's been improved collections for water and sewer.
Yeah, so David Snowden has been doing a lot of work with his staff in the business management division and analyzing meter usage and really anomalies in usage. And it's led to a couple meter replacements and recalibrations that have yielded fruitful results. And he's actually going to come into the selectmen's meeting in April or May and provide a more comprehensive look at that. We've always talked about unaccounted for water and the fact that we haven't found leaks when we've done physical leak detection, and now we're digging into the business end of things and looking at our billing practices and the reliability of our meters, and putting updated protocols in place when we have what may be misreads or seemingly erroneous data that comes in, and just addressing it head on. And that has actually made a lot of headway over the last year since he's been in that position.
That's great. And as we go to solid waste, the recycled textile collection program's been successful.
Yeah.
But we've had less tonnage in our solid waste, but we've had an increased, for good reason, increased collection in our yard waste. Is that clearly COVID, people are home and they can get their yard work done?
It seems like it. Hopefully that means their quality of life is better too. But yeah.
Well, I can tell you, my husband loves going out to get the yard work done. So
yeah.
I just look out the window and wave. That's all I want to do. And how long have we had a new town engineer?
So Andy Truman is the town engineer, and he came on board in the mid-calendar year, well, actually mid-fiscal year 2019. So I believe it was January 2019 or December 2018 that he came on board with us.
It's been that
So
long?
yeah, so he wasn't hired as the town engineer. We were in that
Oh,
DPW transition when Jeff Holland, who was the town engineer, became the DPW director. But after Andy was here with us for 6 months or so, it became clear that he's got the skill set and the demeanor and the professionalism to be the town engineer. And that official title was given to him, I think, just in the fall of 2019. So yeah, but he does a really good job. Is a really smart guy and has helped us out tremendously since he's been on board.
is that department all straightened out upstairs in town hall now?
Yeah, DPW is doing very well. We are kind of in the midst of a couple changes coming up potentially in fiscal year 22. Jonathan Ramadi, longtime town surveyor, retired earlier this calendar year, and so we're looking to not have an in-house surveyor anymore. We just contract those services out. Since we're not seeing the subdivision growth and things like that anymore, that made that position critical. But we still have plenty of work that will be done there. So we're looking to hire. It's actually posted right now. If anyone is interested, more of a entry-level engineer and training position to help us with some design work, and be happy to help them get the experience that they need to move on to their full PE and things like that. So that's actually posted right now if anyone's interested. And we'll also be hiring a similar engineer, a compliance engineer in the stormwater area, as those permitted demands increase for stormwater. So that'll come up in the next fiscal year. But yeah, we're getting settled in the DPW model, and everyone's getting more used to it and ironing out as many wrinkles as we can.
And we have 3 new police officers,
Yeah,
and they're fresh out of the academy and into field training.
Yeah, 3. Yep, that's right. And then we have three new officers that will be heading into the academy soon because of retirements. So it's we're in the midst of hiring there as well and bringing on new individuals on board, which is exciting. But yeah.
And so, just so people understand, just because they're out of the academy, there's still an extended period of time of field training, which is kind of basically it's orientation, that that is for an extended period of time.
Yeah, where they don't go out in a cruiser by themselves, or if they are, they receive kind of immediate support, for traffic stops and things like that. Just, one can imagine going to the police academy and learning the academics and physical nature of and things like that, and then showing up your first day and getting tossed the keys to the cruiser and going out in the field and doing it. Those are two completely different things. So yeah, it's actually a very extensive program. The Chief Anderson always likes to tell me, from the day that you authorize me to post a position until that new patrol officer would be hired, gone through the academy, and actually able to work on their own would be 18 months. So it's a very long process. So someone decides to retire tomorrow and gives us 30 days notice or something. We have a long way to get there until we're back to full strength.
And new police station. It is called a police station, not a public safety complex, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And so there's been progress with the planning and the architectural design.
Yep.
It seems that Patrick Pitney, of course, is doing a great job as chair, and they're selecting a construction manager. Has that
That's
been
right.
done?
Yep, it has been done, and very happy. Not only were they the most advantageous or the lowest bidder, but they're a contractor that we're very familiar with, the Fontaine Brothers, who's built the library and is building Beale for us right now. So they're going to slide over from Lake Street to Maple Avenue. So we're happy about that. Again, their bid was hundreds of thousands of dollars less than anyone else. I think that has a lot to do with the partnership that we've had with them and their comfort with the town and our comfort with them. So that our ability of our staff to be professional and follow through and work with a good design team, those are the things that we don't really see, at town meeting or in the bottom line of any financial statement. But it really provides great value to the taxpayers and true savings. In this case, for that project, hundreds of thousands of dollars off the bat. So I think that
Wait a minute, coming back.
you're
I
back.
lost, you, but that's
That's
just
okay.
me. I touched something I wasn't supposed to. Sorry about that.
No,
So,
yep.
and the design work, is it ready or will it be ready by April?
It will be ready by April. So now that we have this construction manager at risk process that we take, we get through about 60% of the design, and then we bring the person on board that's going to build it. And they can help us say, well, you shouldn't do that because I can't, that doesn't make sense, practically. Let's change this. And so this May, June-ish, you'll start to see site work occur. Everything's going to be happening, between the existing police station and the recreation fields on Maple Avenue. So you'll see that start, and then, underground work, and then the foundation and everything will be in starting this fall.
And so
2023, April 2023.
April 2023. Basically, June, July time, they'll get ready for subbidding with
Yes,
contractors.
that's right. Yep. So we'll start to
And
bring all those concrete firms and steel firms on board.
and once that's all done, it'll bring you into the fall for when we actually see what looks like construction.
That's
And
right.
is it 18 months from then that we'd see a building?
Yeah, so it's April of 2023 that we would see a ribbon cutting, an opening of the building. So we'd be about 16 to 18 months from this fall.
And we have a town election May 4th, and town meeting May 22nd. It's going to be on a Saturday once again.
That's right.
And how will the planning be different than last town meeting that was outside, minus the ants?
So we're actually placing strong consideration on doing it inside the field house instead of outside at Oak. What really pushed us farthest in that direction is so far is the fact that everyone will become eligible for the vaccine on April 19th. And we know that a whole additional cohort, retail workers, a lot of additional professions come on board before that. So we know everyone won't have, both vaccines by then. Some people may not have one, but we feel that because the likelihood of a lot of people will have at least one dose of the vaccine, and that we can just control the environment so much better than we can. As you know, I don't have to tell anyone that lives here, it could either be 75 or 80 degrees and sunny, or 50 or 45 degrees and raining on May 22nd. So taking that variable out and making sure that we can get it all done in one day as comfortable as possible. We do have the ability to air condition the space if needed at the field house. So that's where we're leaning right now.
And there's a big ballot question. So it's basically asking if the town, if people want an additional assessment on their taxes. Is that just a fancy way of saying override 2.5?
Yeah, it's a Proposition 2.5 override. And as of today, which is March 25th, Thursday, the Board of Selectmen hasn't voted to yet set that officially on the ballot. They're going to meet tomorrow, Friday, the 26th at 4 o'clock. I think likely they will vote that given all their discussions. But yep, it's a Proposition 2.5 override to try to both overcome structural long-term deficit. It's been since 2014, since the last time the question was asked. And then was kind of sped up by challenges related to the pandemic that coincide with the opening of a new elementary school and things like that. It's a
And
perfect
there's a
storm.
lot of issues around it that there'll be a lot of discussion about, but it's something that I think people, no matter which side of the issue they're on, they just need to understand what the facts are. And the facts need to be clearly defined for the public who will be voting. So that'll be important for people to actually either watch the meetings or get the information so that they can make an educated decision one way or another.
That's right.
Um,
We
because
have a lot of information on the town manager's budget page on the website. But anyone that's interested or has any questions, they can just email me. You know, my email's available on the website. They can email anyone in the town manager's office. We can get them direct access to the documents, refer them through a link. You know, all of our meetings are recorded. We've spent, you know, hours already talking about it, but I'm happy to answer any direct questions as well.
And how much money does that mean for the average taxpayer?
It's about $700 a year.
$700 a year more.
Correct.
For how long?
Well, it's forever. I mean, it's a permanent increase in the tax levy, but it's only, you know, it's that type of increase will only happen in the first year. Now, you know, if you want to make this even more complicated, which no one does, but unfortunately it's what we're living in right now, is that there will likely be opportunity to use stimulus funding to lessen that impact significantly in the early years. But stimulus funding that is coming in through the American Rescue Plan is not a long-term solution because it doesn't replenish itself. You know, it doesn't come back year after year. It's a one-time allocation of funding. But I mean, I don't want to raise taxes if we don't have to. And if we have to, I don't want to raise them any more than is required. And certainly, you know, neither does the Board of Selectmen. So, you know, the commitment that they're making is that, you know, because of the timing, it seems prudent to still ask for the override in its full amount and then just not raise that amount of money through the tax rate if it's not needed, because we can use stimulus funds. But even earlier today, 10:30 press briefing of Governor Baker, he said he still doesn't anticipate knowing how we'll specifically be able to use those funds for another 2 to 3 weeks. So unfortunately, we don't want people to have to come out for a second ballot question. The timing's just a little bit off. But I mean, I will always make the commitment to the residents to do the right thing and not raise the taxes any, you know, a cent more than we have to. So.
And so for those that don't watch the Finance Committee budget hearings, which I find to be most fascinating, what would be the biggest message you would give to the public related to your fiscal projections and as far as challenges and difficult decisions that you will have to make for 2022, FY 2022?
Yeah, so I mean, for FY 2022, the reason that the question is being asked now is because of reduced revenues that are a result of the pandemic, and then increased costs to just continue to provide services on both the municipal and school side. This will benefit both municipal and school. This isn't a town or a school issue. It's or a municipal or an educational issue. It's a town-wide issue. It will benefit both. It will allow us to continue to provide the same services and hopefully in some areas a little bit better services or expanded services over the next, you know, the commitment being made by the Board of Selectmen and School Committee 4 years. There's many opportunities, I think, over those next 4 years to extend that out. But the commitment is truly for 4 years, not to ask again. Proposition 2.5 is just that it only lets us raise revenues by 2.5%. And, you know, if you look at anything that folks are purchasing, whether it's a motor vehicle or a car or a service, often those expenses increase more than 2.5%, then the town faces those same increased bills, and we need revenue to continue to provide the program. So this is a town, a municipal and a school issue. There's benefits to both, and we'll continue to provide high quality services if we're afforded the opportunity.
And how would you respond to someone who may think that you're not being fiscally responsible with this coming forward?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, I recognize the fact that it's a financial challenge for a lot of people, a lot more people than in a normal year, so to speak, because of the pandemic. I'm happy to talk through all the austere measures that we've taken to try to reduce costs. I'm happy to explain the year-over-year costs that we've experienced. I've gone back, and I showed a slide for the last 18 years where on average, the municipal side of the budget's grown by about 3.25%, and the school side has grown by about 4.25%, when you've straight line that and smooth everything out. And we're asking just to have the revenue to continue to be able to do that. And that revenue certainty is huge for us, because we don't want to be hiring people one year and laying folks off the next year. But I think the data is really there. If you look at our per pupil spending, if you look at our average tax bill, we are providing some of the best value. That is, we have some of the lowest per pupil costs and the lowest average tax bill in the state. That doesn't mean we want to raise it and get to the top just to raise it, but it means that our service level expectations have to be met with the revenue to be able to provide it. And that's just what we're asking to do.
Do you have anything exciting to tell us about the Allen property?
So not really. So
not because there's nothing happening, or because it's too early to be able to publicly talk about it?
Well, I mean, I think a little bit of both. I mean, it wasn't a secret that there was a major company that a lot of people shop on online and get delivery in 2 days from, that was considering locating
That begins
there.
with an A?
Yeah, it begins with an A and ends with a Zon. So, they were looking hard there. They're not the purchaser of the site, but so it was strongly being considered by that. That doesn't seem to be the forefront anymore. The private developer seems to be moving in potentially a different direction, and maybe forwarding plans to us in the future. So I think the property will still be sold within the coming months to a private developer, which will put that property to good use and provide valuable tax revenue to us. Yeah,
And a
it hasn't
positive
sold yet.
impact
The
to the
deal's not
town?
done. I'm sorry?
With a positive impact to the town?
Yeah, I think it'll be positive impact, both from an increase in tax revenue and a job creation standpoint.
Okay, so how much longer before we'll have an answer there? Information.
If I had to guess right now, I would say within 60 to 90 days.
That's not bad. I think I can wait. That's like waiting for a Christmas gift. So we've talked about the Allen property for so long. I mean, from the time we purchased it, we really thought that it would be sold sooner than now. But if it's a good business plan with a good business decision that benefits the town, then it was worth the wait.
Right.
So let's talk with the remaining time we have about COVID in Shrewsbury, because from March last year to November 25th, there were 729 cases. By December 18th, we had already gone to 1,254 cases. And then now, what are we at today?
We're at 2,711.
And in your opinion, I mean, I'd like to see us lower than that. I actually thought we would be lower than that. What's causing, is there any information that tells us what's causing that number to not go down lower?
No, the only thing that I can point to really is I remember Dr. Hirsch, talking with him last spring, and he said, um, when this surge comes, it will take more than twice as long from us to come off the peak as it did to rise to it. So I'm with you. If you would have asked me about a month ago, I would have thought our average case counts at the end of March would have been down to about 3 to 5 a day. They're hanging around the 10 to 15. So it's like we've come way down off the 40s and 30s a day, but we're kind of like, skimming along again around 10 cases per day. So I can tell you that I've only been notified one time whenever a variant was found in a Shrewsbury case. So that's one of the 2,711 cases. So that's positive for me, but I just think that we're
Which
all a little bit
variant was it?
anxious. The UK.
UK?
Yeah. So I think we're all a little anxious, as we should be, to get back down to those summer days of zeros, ones, and twos. But it seems to me that that may take another month or two to get there.
And schools are going to reopen full time?
Yeah, first week of April. Yeah, at the elementary level, and then the middle schools will trail them by about a month. So,
And what about the high school?
I haven't heard. I haven't heard a date for Shrewsbury High School yet. There could be one, and I just may not be aware of it. So, I'm not
So is that
exactly.
decision made on the numbers, on predictions, or is it made politically?
Well, so it's a state mandate to have the elementary students back by April, and we're certainly able to, provide a plan to do that with the 3 feet of separation. And we've been working hard on that. It's going to take some outdoor classrooms and, hopefully good weather and relief space and everything to make it really comfortable. We're doing pooled school testing. So we've been doing that for over a month now, which is just simply rather than kind of testing each and every individual swab, we test a bunch of people, put all the swabs together and see if there's a positive. And then if there is, then we've got to go back to the secondary swab and try to identify who it was and narrow the field. So I think with that testing capability, that we'll be able to do this safely. And one thing that I hope as maybe less as the town manager and more of a father of a current 6th grader and 8th grader is that having them back in school all the time at the end of this year will help the transition into, well, I think what we all anticipated would be full-time on-site next fall. So hopefully these last few months kind of make that easier on the kids next year. And I know, again, as a father, not a town manager, but I have a 6th grader and in our school district, it's her last year at that school. So she gets to, finish that out. And,
Big time.
Yeah, more reliable.
So this was another fast hour. I want to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.